Hello, everyone. My name is Adriano Perillo. I'm the CEO of Tyro Health. Tyro Health is a specialist business unit of Tyro that really focuses in on the specific needs of the health industry and our health practices and providers. And so, thank you for joining us. We're looking forward to talking about the RBA surcharging changes that were recently announced and to talk through what they mean for your practice and to answer any questions that we may have. Now, before we kick off, just some housekeeping items. If you have any questions that you would like to ask, please use the Q&A function, which is one of the buttons that you can see there in Zoom, and ask any questions that you may have. In the background, I'm joined by a couple of the team, a couple of experts from the team. We've got Kim Phillips, who is our head of customer operations, who is joining us. And we've also got Pete Williams, who is the Tyro Health CTO. So they will be responding to your questions, and we'll also be providing a bit of a summary at the end of some of the key themes that we are hearing from some of our practices and providers, and providing that back to everyone here. So please feel free to do that. Some of you answered a poll that we had right at the top of the session. So if we look at how that went, let's have a look at this. The question we asked was, how is your practice planning for the changes in surcharging? And we can see there that a majority of people are not yet sure how they will be dealing with the surcharging fees that you had previously passed on to patients. And you need a bit more time to consider that. There are, though, a third that will expect to increase service fees to absorb the cost from the 1st of October. So feels like quite a split between people who will be increasing fees on the 1st of October and practices that are not yet sure how they're going to deal with it. So always good to know how the rest of the industry is thinking about it. Thank you, everyone who responded to the question. Appreciate it. Okay, let's kick off. There have been three main changes that the RBA announced that we'll be talking through today. The first one was the end to surcharging. The second change they announced was lower payment fees. And the third change they announced was some increased payment transparency that they will be requiring. We're going to talk about each of these three items right now. If I start with the one that everyone here is probably most familiar with, it is the end to surcharging. So from the 1st of October this year, surcharging on debit and credit cards will no longer be permitted. This applies to EFTPOS, MasterCard, and Visa cards. Now, the rationale that the RBA has provided is that, surcharging was initially implemented to encourage consumers to use cheaper payment methods, or to at least understand the cost of some of the new payment methods that were coming in. This was at a time when cash was a bit more prevalent than it is now. Fast forward to 2026, and it's increasingly hard for consumers to avoid surcharges. Invariably, we tap our cards, or even more than that, we tap our phones as we load our cards into our kind of digital wallets. And research that the RBA did showed that 76% of consumers wanted surcharging to stop. And I guess this was in response to that. The other big change has been online payments and how much is processed through there, and how obviously other alternatives other than digital cards are not really as possible. Now, at the moment, other payment methods have not been covered by this decision, and there's more information still to come to work through what it means for those. They are, for example, American Express, PayPal, and Afterpay. If I just spend a moment on American Express, what we're referring to here is American Express Classic. That's the one where you have a direct agreement with American Express, not necessarily with us. And then you provide us with a kind of merchant ID from American Express, and we facilitate and kind of pass through that transaction, but the settlements come through from American Express. That one is not covered by this decision. There is an alternative American Express solution, which is known as OptBlue. I'm going to talk a little bit about that a little further on in the presentation and what we'll be doing with that one. Now, the second change that was announced as part of this, that's kind of the flip side of the coin here, is lower payment fees that will be passing through. Now, in order to explain this, I'm going to go into a little bit of detail. Allow me to be a payment nerd for just a moment and explain how some of the payment transactions work. So for each payment that we process, Tyro has to pay a fee to the bank that issued the card. They're known as the issuer. And so in this case, it's an ING issued card. And so the issuer is ING. And we pay a fee for issuing the card, organizing that with the cardholder, for payment of any fraud that might occur or kind of chargebacks. And it also funds things such as rewards that cards might have. These fees are known as interchange fees, and they are regulated by the RBA. And because they're regulated by the RBA, they've made some changes to how these work. What they're doing is they are reducing the maximum or the cap that issuers can charge for interchange fees. So, for example, on debit cards, which is really very prevalent in the health industry, the maximum that can be charged for a debit card is 0.2, and that is being reduced to a maximum of 0.16%. For consumer credit cards, the maximum that can be charged currently is 0.8. Now, 0.8 is what would be reserved for a kind of diamond or a black kind of credit card where you're getting lots of reward points. Maybe you've got a concierge you can call up, flights, vouchers for Coles and Woolies, that kind of thing. When we process a card like that, we typically have to pay a higher interchange fee through to the issuing bank because they have to fund all of those. They have to fund, those kind of rewards and other services that they provide. Other cards that might be simpler cards that don't, have all of those items might go through at, say, 0.2% at the moment. Regardless, the change that the RBA have put through is that from the 1st of October, the maximum that an issuing bank can charge is 0.3%. So you can see that they are really putting downward pressure on these kind of credit card products. Probably less relevant to the health industry, foreign issued cards currently have a max of 2.4%, and they will be reducing down to a maximum fee of 1%, and that will roll through from next year, from April. So a slightly different date. So this is really great, and we are working through what it means for us and for our business. We do have a very strong track record at Tyro at ensuring that we are competitive and that we pass on savings through to merchants. There's a few examples. Least cost routing is functionality where we have the choice to be able to transfer different transactions that we process through different rails or networks. Sometimes they have different prices and fees associated with it. We've been strong advocates and have built capability and technology to route those transactions through to the least cost networks to ensure that we're passing those savings on to our merchants. We have had reductions in our Tyro Health online payment solution that we have passed on to our merchants. We have some great bundle rates as well. We've recently rolled out free paper rolls for Tyro Health practices. We know how long some of those claiming invoice receipts can get. And this is in addition to the existing free items we offer, such as mobile data SIM backup, which we don't charge anything further for, and chargebacks where you don't win disputes. There's no charges for those. So We have a team of folk at the moment that are reviewing what these RBA changes mean, what it means for us, and putting together our communications plan where we will be communicating through to you around what this means for your merchant service fees from the 1st of October. We currently expect that this will take us no longer than August to be able to share this with you. We want to provide you with as much time as possible to be able to make any plans that you may need to make for your practice. It's a large undertaking. We are working diligently, and we will be getting that out as soon as possible to you to be able to give you certainty about what your fees look like from the 1st of October. The last item I wanted to talk about was increased transparency. So there's a few things here that the RBA are doing. They are requiring that card schemes like Visa and MasterCard submit, and they will have their data published on the RBA website so that we can compare how they're tracking. We will have large payment providers like Tyro and others. We will be publishing our fee data and reporting that to the RBA so that everyone can see our fee data and how we're tracking by different card types. And finally, merchants and businesses like yourselves will receive more detailed information on statements that you receive. And like an example is here on the right that outlines the different card types that your practice processed, and how much that was, and what the fee was associated with that. Obviously, this is very different per practice, what the kind of mix of cards is that you receive. And so you'll be able to see on the statements that we provide you what your practice is looking like to be able to get better insights into what that fee structure looks like. So to summarize, the key points there that probably that we want to share with you is that we're working through what fees will look like from the 1st of October. We expect to share that no later than August to give you enough time to prepare. On the 1st of October, we will be automatically removing surcharging on EFTPOS, MasterCard, Visa, and American Express Opt Blue. This is the version of American Express where you don't go through American Express for the functionality, but you go through Tyro, and Tyro settles the funds, and it's all through the Tyro infrastructure. And so surcharging on those card types will be removed. There is no technical changes required from you to be compliant. We will do this all in the background, and we will absolutely be communicating with you before that date to make sure that you have the latest information and are well prepared. Those were the key points that we wanted to cover. I wanted to ask Kim and Pete whether or not there were any key themes of questions that were coming through that you wanted to talk about at the moment. Kim, I might kick off with yourself.
Thanks, Adrian. There are a few things coming through around how customers can understand what their current fee structure is and how they can make educated commercial decisions on how to pass those fees on ethically to their patients. From a Tyro perspective, we do have all of this information available to you in the Tyro merchant portal. So there's different sections depending on what you're looking for. We have detailed breakdowns month on month on your cost of acceptance, so how much per card type it is costing you to take transactions, as well as your fees in relation to merchant service fees, as well as terminal rental fees. So we do have all of that information in there in the portal for you. Anyone that specifically asks for that, I will send you through links to the user guides on how to access that and configure that. But it's definitely all in the portal, and any of the admins on your account can provide access to that.
I think the point to note is that the costs that you are currently experiencing are not necessarily going to be the cost that you will incur from the 1st of October.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at the cost of acceptance in that section, it is a historical view. So it is like looking at the past 3 months, though you can go through month on month to see that. But yes, definitely best to wait for the communications from our pricing team on what the changes will be as we pass on those savings to our merchants in the coming months. Pete, did you want to chat about practice management software?
Yeah, we had a few questions come through from practices that use an integrated practice management solution that supports the configuration of surcharging. So come 1 October, when we disable surcharging on our FPOS devices, that will also disable integrated surcharging functionality requests that we would receive coming from those practice management systems. So effectively, if you previously had that set up, rates within there or an option by each different merchant. Each doctor might have a different merchant, some surcharge, some didn't. Effectively, all those will be disabled come from 1 October forward. And that will also include the integrated reporting that we do. So some of our customers will see and report on separately those surcharge line items. Those will effectively be zeroed out from that point forward.
Great.
Thanks, Pete. Another question is coming up around how do we pass these fees on to the providers within the practice? If you have a practice where people trade under their own individual ABNs, and how you would bill that on to those providers in the new structure if you can't surcharge them. So the great thing about the Tyro multi-merchant setup is that we can actually set up different accounts for where you settle to and where your fees get billed out of. So for example, if you have everyone's funds settling into the practice account, you can actually nominate a different account for the fees to be debited from. So we can actually handle that admin for you so that you don't have to try and divide up which doctor needs to pay which fees. If you're not set up for multi-merchant, head to our Tyro Health website. And we do have a whole section on merchant groups and multi-merchant setups in our help center. And our team are happy to help you get that organized if you don't have that already as well.
Yeah, that's great.
They're really the
Thanks.
key things, Adrian. I haven't seen anything else really come through. There were a few questions about when they would find it, but we've answered that before August. We should have the communication out.
Right.
So I think that's all that's really coming through.
Wonderful. Thank you. Feel like we're throwing to people out in the field. Back to you in the studio. Thank you. If you have any other questions, we are here to help. You can call us on that phone number that calls into Kim's team, 1300 01 8976. Or you can email us at healthsupport@tyro.com. And we will also be sharing a recording of this session for you to play back in your own time. So I don't want to hold anyone up from their lunch. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time. Any questions, please let us know, and we hope you have a fantastic day. Thanks.